President Donald Trump is not in favor of heavy handling the coronavirus issue by some of the states because the states are dealing with it more harshly than it is necessary. And I think this is a start of a rebellion against this lockdown. Lockdown is necessary, but it also has its bad sides. Humans, by nature, do not want to give in to pressure. And we humans do not accept any kind of imprisonment, whether that be the imprisonment of mind or imprisonment of body or imprisonment of a nation. It doesn't matter. And now we are going out of this planet in search of lives outside this solar system and etc. Because we want to be free and freer than we were before. So this lockdown is a sort of imposition of government rule on us. So the government wants us in a way to remain at home, which is kind of an imprisonment for us. And in the name of quarantine, what it has done, it has denied us of our right to freedom of movement. Now, it needs to be these certain things need to be weighed. I understand the government might have good intentions of controlling the population, controlling their certain behavioral patterns, and curbing their right to freedom of movement, so that some other things can be dealt with. For example, the time is needed to find a vaccine, and it is proven that this virus spreads fast if we take off this lockdown. But still, the people must have the right to choose, especially when it comes to enlightened citizenship. We are living in the 21st century where the people of the developed countries believe that they have reached a zenith of understanding of what is good for the human society. So living inside homes and not being able to mingle with other people is a denial of basic human right to freedom of movement. It also hampers others' rights. For example, right to freedom of religion, right to associate, right to protest, right to do many things, right to have engage in leisure and just passing their time elsewhere without giving any justification to anyone. Do I have the right to stand outside my home where there is a mountain not too far from here and just relax there and not mingle with anyone else? So this also falls under the question whether that is a necessary thing to do. So the question whether and what something is necessary for human intellect to flourish is subjective. And I believe that we humans must not be bound by any government where our basic human rights to flourish is imprisoned. But that's what is happening now. We must have the choice to do our harm to ourselves, take the risk of harming to ourselves up to certain extent. For example, we shouldn't have the government shouldn't give us the right to harm ourselves so that we go ahead and we commit suicide or try to commit suicide. That should be a violation of law. That although this varies from nation to nation, but whether somebody should be allowed to try to kill himself, and the questions comes like euthanasia and all that. That whether someone wants to terminate his life, that life has become so unbearable that that person wants to take his life. And this kind of issues have raised questions like, as I said, euthanasia and all that. We are heading that way because these lockdown laws or orders by the government are pushing, these orders are pushing people to their corners, and the result might be beyond our control in future, because we may come up with issues like post-traumatic stress disorder, more domestic violences might flare up. We might come up with things like social distancing will create breaking down of family relationships, and also things like we might be pushed to a situation where we will become disrespectful to law and order. So the government might lose grip on the population, so that the rule of law can prevail. If there is rebellion and disrespect grows against government enforced laws, which is apparently good for humans, then law and order will break down. And also, other things are coming up. For example, patients who are waiting for other medical treatments, the number of those cases are piling up. So what is going to happen after this coronavirus goes? These patients will be starting to queue up for medicines. They will suffer, their diseases will become more chronic, and this will hamper their lives. And I know that, for example, I'm a cardiac patient, and I'll remain a cardiac patient as long as I live because of my health situation and all that. So I was waiting several doctor's appointments, and those doctor's appointments had to be cancelled because of this coronavirus pressure. So what has happened, that is aggravating my situations, although slowly, but it is. These situations in my body are getting aggravated. So this might in future jeopardize my life. I have the right to life, and I have the right to try to have a long life, but that is going to be hampered if I am not addressed soon enough. And people's rights to free trade and right to free competition of business, all of these things are being hampered. Now you can say that, what if that lockdown is taken off? So we are so irresponsible. That tells us that we are so irresponsible as a nation, that we can't take care of ourselves. We cannot understand what is called social distancing when it is necessary. We are not aware of the fact that we need to wash our hands. We need to keep our distances. When we only go to the mosque, we have to take the praying mattresses, and we must not stand shoulder to shoulder. And we must not go to a city where the pandemic is an alarming situation. That means we are irresponsible as a nation. That is something very hard for someone like me to digest. So what about the countries where law and order doesn't prevail? In those countries, like for example, the country I was born in Bangladesh, the government there have been always, all the governments in the past have always been dictatorial in nature, despotic in nature. So there we can see rule of law in a dictatorial form. The people are always afraid of the dictator. So the way the dictator dictates, stay at home, the position of the dictators becomes stronger. But at the same time, when people are not abiding by the lockdown orders because they believe that they have to do certain things, for example, going to the mosques, but they're at the same time not well informed because education or access to mass media or social awareness are not that many to come by. So the people cannot be informed to that level that they can become socially aware of the problems with the disease and how to face them, how to be careful of them. So what are the other ways? The government in these poor countries, they need to confirm certain things, first of all. They need to confirm other more important, more valuable basic human right, that is right to life. So if government, as is happening already, the government has ordered in Bangladesh to stay at home. So once they are staying at home, their businesses are getting destroyed. Many of them are poor people. They live hand to mouth on a daily earning. The government of Bangladesh cannot confirm whether they have the goodwill or not, cannot confirm there will be no corruption. So the corruptions are happening. Government is giving away food, relief supplies, but those relief supplies are only working as shows for the camera, and their basic needs are being deprived of, and they almost have started starving there. And we might see, God forbid, famine coming to those poor countries, not in Bangladesh, but also in neighboring countries like in Pakistan and India. So government can force starvation on them, but still it's a trial by the government, despotic ruler, that I will enforce these rules on you, and these are for you, good for you, the same way some ultra religious governments do, that this is good for you, this is my interpretation of the scripture, so you stay at home. And at the same time, they will not teach what is called social awareness. They will not live up to their other responsibilities of supplying food to the people, and also slowly equipping people of how to be aware of this disease, how to maintain social distances, what precautions they can take. For example, taking the prayer mat, keeping distances from other fellow believers when they are going to the mosques. So we will see either people facing a starvation, or despots becoming more despotic, or we might see a serious rebellious movements in countries like Bangladesh or Pakistan. So this is what is going to happen when it comes to lockdown. So I think there governments around the world must start thinking how to make people more socially aware and take this lockdown off as soon as possible. Otherwise, other serious repercussions might come up, and they might be in the pipeline already in people's minds. So I am not in favor of keeping this lockdown anymore, but at the same time, I believe that governments must be aware that they need to advise people to stay at home, and the police or the law enforcing agencies must not deal with the violators of this lockdown heavy-handedly, whichever that government might be, because this will encourage people not to respect the law more, and they will lose respect for the government and the rule of law eventually. That what if people become, say, irresponsible, and they contract this disease, this pandemic? What's going to happen then? Can the government wash their hands of the responsibility of treating this individual who contracted this disease irresponsibly? Answer is no. Government still has to treat that patient like any other patients, because when it comes to treatments and when it comes to diseases, many diseases are contracted because being careless about it, or accidentally. And I don't believe any human being on the planet will try to contact this disease intentionally. So I believe that this is also another flawed argument, that what can the government do? Government needs to be careful about such kind of diseases or pandemics in future, because pandemics will come again. So how to deal with it? They must formulate a way so that our basic human rights cannot be denied, and government must also be prepared to treat us if we contact this disease, even irresponsibly, or even being careless about it. Although I don't want people to be careless about it, I want everybody to be careful, like I am being careful, because I'm a vulnerable individual. And if I contact this disease, it will be very difficult to keep me alive. But anyway, good luck, people. And I think we should ask our governments to take off this lockdown as soon as possible. Thank you for listening.